This video is brought to you by John Robson Guitar Tuition. If you enjoy the content, please consider supporting the channel by enrolling on a course, purchasing some guitar lessons or a t-shirt, or you can join my Patreon. Now, on with the show. Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well. Today is Tuesday, which means we're doing a top 5 list. And yeah, these videos cover quite a breadth of ground, don't they? You know, I've spoken about everything from my 5 favourite comedians, my 5 favourite movies, books, favourite albums in this genre or that genre. But I thought I'd kind of do a little bit of a detour today and do something that is actually useful, or hopefully useful, rather than me just kind of, you know, spouting forth an opinion. It's basically all about learning the fretboard. It is that holy grail thing for many guitar players. How do you learn the fretboard? There's this vast expanse of, you know, 6 strings and 20 odd frets, you know, 21, 22, 24, whatever, you know, and how do you memorize all of that? Well, it's all about making sense of it. And as I say later on in this video, you know, I don't ever remember sitting down and saying, right, today I'm going to learn the fretboard. It just revealed itself to me in the 5 ways that I'm going to talk about here. Starting with...
Know the chromatic scale.
Yeah, this one should really go without saying, but unfortunately it does need mentioning. Basically, I get a lot of players coming to me for lessons, and, you know, in the first lesson I'm kind of scoping them out and seeing what they can do and what they need help with. And, you know, that will inevitably be me saying, okay, play this chord, do that riff, you know, play that scale, whatever. You know, I'm talking about intermediate players here. So if I say to somebody, okay, give me an A flat chord, and I get a blank look, I say, well, okay, let's dial that back a little bit. Give me an F chord, and they'll do this. And I say, okay, so now move F up 1 fret. What do you get? Is it B minor? Well, no, it isn't B minor, because clearly it's a major chord there. It's not going to become a minor chord just by moving it up 1 fret. So, you know, what would it become then? Oh, well, is it B? You know, so there's just, you know, a real lack of understanding of the basic chromatic scale on the part of a lot of, you know, musicians who are able to play songs. They've memorised where their fingers need to go to, you know, get from one end of a song to another. Sometimes, you know, multiple songs, but they don't understand what they're doing. And this is a fundamental, you know, rudiment of all music. So you've got to understand it. It's certainly fundamental to knowing where stuff is on the fretboard. Basically, the way it works is like this, if you're not familiar with it. All musical notes are named after the first 7 letters of the alphabet: A, B, C, D, E, F and G. And if I map those out along the A string, we've got A, then there's B, there's C, there's D, there's E, there's F, there's G, and then we're back to A again here. Okay, it's best described like, think of it like a spiral staircase where you keep coming back to the same point, just a higher or lower version of it. So there's an A there, and you've climbed the staircase and you get to the A there. But you'll notice A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Some of those notes have spaces between them. So between the A and the B, there's this note here. We can regard that as either an A which has been moved up, so it's an A sharp, or a B which has been moved down, so it's a B flat. Likewise between the C and the D, there's the C, there's the D, we have this note here. That is either a C which has been moved up, a C sharp, or a D which has been moved down, D flat. Between the D and the E, the same thing there, so we have a D sharp or an E flat. Same pitch, but just 2 different notes for it. Between the F and the G, we have either an F sharp or a G flat. And likewise between the G and the A, we have the G sharp or the A flat. Like that. So to go back to my hypothetical question to a new student of playing an A flat chord. If you know how to play an F chord, then you move it up one, it becomes an F sharp or a G flat. Move it up another one, it becomes a G. Move it up another one, it becomes a G sharp or an A flat. And that is how you can locate just about anything on the neck of the guitar. It's understanding that fundamental 12 note scale, which we call the chromatic scale, that allows you to unlock everything on the guitar. So you gotta know it. Next.
Do mental arithmetic.
Yeah, mental arithmetic. I'm old enough that when I went to school, everybody sat in rows facing the front, and we would have to do our times tables. 1, 2 is 2, 2, 2's a 4, 3, 2's a 6, etc. And in much the same way as you would get tested on your spelling, everybody kind of takes a turn and goes to the front of the class, and you have to spell parallel or jodhpur or fundamental or something like that. We used to have to do the same thing with mental arithmetic. You take your turn, you go to the front of the class, and the teacher says, "Okay, John, what is 6 multiplied by 4 minus 5? 19. I hope I got that right, by the way. So you would get that kind of thing. And it meant that you could just do mental arithmetic. Now, do the same thing on the guitar. What do I mean? Well, okay, unlike me, I'm in the very lucky position where I can just sit all day and play the guitar and talk about the guitar and just do guitar-related stuff. Most people don't have that luxury. So the time that is yours, that you've carved out, that half an hour or an hour or whatever, most evenings, that you're going to be actually picking up the guitar and having some fun with it. You don't want to be wasting that time kind of number crunching and counting on your fingers and toes to kind of start figuring stuff out about where notes are on the neck. Get all of that done beforehand. We all have, kind of enforced waiting time every day. You could be waiting for the kettle to boil. You could be waiting for your turn in the lunch queue, or, at the supermarket checkout or at the petrol pump, wherever. We all have those kind of couple of minutes dotted around every day where, you've just got nothing to do but hurry up and wait. Well, use that time. Sit and think, okay, C sharp plus 4 frets, F. Or B flat minus 3. What's that? G. So you can just kind of do this sort of counting. Now, obviously, it's not going to instantly make you memorize the musical distances or intervals in semitones between any randomly chosen pair of notes. That's not the way it's going to work. Eventually, if you do it for long enough, it will. It's like if going back to the mathematical thing again, if you say to a 9-year-old, what is 6 multiplied by 4, they'll tell you it's 24, but they'll take a lot longer than a 19-year-old, because the 19-year-old has had, another 10 years of figuring that stuff out, and it's just become something that they know rather than having to figure out. So eventually it will get there. But what this kind of practice counting, let's call it, will do while you're waiting for the kettle to boil, what it does is it just gets you slicker and quicker and more comfortable with that sort of counting up and down way of thinking, so that when you need to know how far away a particular note is, it suddenly doesn't become all panic stations and, your mind goes blank, okay? So if you just get into that habit of using that dead time that we all have during the day and putting it to good effect, you will see the benefits when, eventually, I say eventually, after as little as a few weeks, really, you will start to see the benefits. You'll be more attuned and familiar with where stuff is on the fretboard and how far apart stuff is. You'll just be used to that way of thinking. And as I say, it doesn't eat into your valuable, precious hands on the guitar time that you've carved out of your day as a little bit of you time. So there you go. Just do a little bit of musical mental arithmetic. Next.
Old school tuning.
Okay, chances are that if you started playing the guitar at any point in the last, 30 years, then you have always tuned your guitar using some variant of this species here, the electronic tuner. It's what I use, nowadays as well. But back in the dim and distant days of the late 70s, when I started playing the guitar as an 11-year-old kid in 1978, we didn't have electronic tuners. I'm sure they existed, but I'm pretty sure they're also prohibitively expensive for, an 11-year-old kid learning to play the guitar. What you did was you used a pitch pipe, a little harmonica thing that had the 6 notes of the guitar strings on it. You blew into each note and you tuned each string until it matched that note. That was the theory, but in my experience with pitch pipes, they were quite often inaccurate themselves. The note that you're tuning to is kind of a little bit out. But what you would do is you would find, usually on a pitch pipe, and the one that I had, it was the B string, that was the one I used to use. You would find one note that was actually pretty close or dead on, and that would be the note that you'd use. So you get one string in tune. You can tune all of the other strings relative to that one string. And if it's easier if I demonstrate it from the low E string. So let's say you get your low E string in tune to some external reference, a pitch pipe, a tuning fork, whatever, and you then fret that note at the 5th fret, fret that string at the 5th fret. That then gives you the note that you need to tune the next string to. And then once that one's in tune, you fret this one at the 5th fret. And that gives you the note to tune the next one to. You then fret that one at the 5th fret. And that gives you the note to tune the next string to. You then fret the 3rd string at the 4th fret. There's just that little kind of step back on that string, and you use that to tune the next string to, the 2nd string, and then you go back to the 5th fret on the 2nd string to tune the 1st string to. So if you know that the strings are E, A, D, G, B, E, or elephants and donkeys grow big ears, well, you now have extra reference points along the length of the string that you can count up and down from using that chromatic scale that we looked at in the last example, because you automatically know that this is an A note here because it's the note you use to tune your A string to. You automatically know that this is a D note here because it's the note you use to tune your D string. Likewise, you're going to know that this is a G note here because it's the note you use to tune the G string. You know that this is a B note here at the 4th fret on the 3rd string because it's the note that you use to tune your B string to. And likewise, you know that the note on the 5th fret of the B string is an E note because it's the note you use to tune your E string to. And because these differentials, these tuning differentials between the strings, you can, it doesn't take a lot of imagination, for example, to kind of figure out that the note at the 9th fret on the 3rd string is an E. We know that because the 4th fret on the 3rd string is a B note, so that's a B, and we know that the 5th fret on the B string is an E note, so that's a B, add 5 frets to it, it becomes an E. You just think in this manner. You're always kind of aware of the different intervals between the strings, and it just makes figuring out where notes are so much easier if you've kind of been brought up and kind of raised, I guess, in this old school tuning method. So there's also the byproduct of, I noticed that when I first started teaching the guitar, there was still a lot of people using that method to tune their guitars. And one thing I never really had to struggle with students back then in the early 90s was the whole business of getting string bends accurately to pitch, because people's ears had become accustomed to tuning their guitars and being able to hear when a note was hitting the right pitch or not. I'm guilty as everybody else of using a digital tuner to get my guitar in tune. It's quick, it's convenient, and it's accurate. But there is something to be said for the old school tuning method, not least because it helps you understand the fretboard that little bit more. Next.
Break a string.
Yeah, don't literally break a string. That would be taking it a bit too far. I mean, you could if you're into sort of method acting, I suppose. But, you know, I've spoken many times on this channel about my first ever electric guitar being a Woolworths Top 20. And if you've seen any of those videos, you will know that I quite often describe that guitar as a collection of sharp edges held together with a guitar-shaped lump of plywood. Pretty much sums that guitar up. And it used to absolutely devour strings. So I'd, you know, kind of race home from school on a Monday night, you know, just desperate to get my hands back on the guitar. And within 10 minutes, boing, there goes my top E string. So I can't play what was at the time probably my favourite bit of lead guitar, probably my only bit of lead guitar that I could play, you know, the old Johnny Kidd and the Pirates thing. If these two notes aren't there, I can't play that lick because that string is, you know, that string's missing. So well, I can't. There's nothing I can do. Or is there? Well, again, going back to that relative tuning method, I know that this open string is replicated here at the 5th fret on this string. So I can now go. But that, I mean, that worked. I probably did that for a little while, but it just felt a bit clumsy. So I'm wondering if I can get the rest of these notes that are in that lick kind of closer up to this part of the neck here. And again, the relative tuning method comes to the rescue. For instance, I know that this open string here is the same as this 4th fret here. So can be played as, and I know that these two notes here, well, that open string there is also there, and you know, becomes that. So this lick basically can be played there as well. Or maybe, you know, kind of maybe I lost 2 strings, and you know, it wouldn't be that unusual, so I could play that lick here like that. So just finding alternative places based upon that relative tuning, you know, kind of thing is a good way of learning where notes repeat. And then once you learn, for instance, that this is a G, you know, and this is an E, D, B, G, A, then E, G, D, B, A, G, and, you know, E, G, D, B, A, G. Once you learn the notes in one of those little kind of locations, collections, if you like, then all the rest just seem to auto-complete. And it has a kind of wonderful shrinking effect on the neck. Suddenly it doesn't seem like this vast expanse of uncharted territory anymore, because you're starting to see the architecture and the patterns and the symmetries involved, all through having a guitar with only 5 or sometimes only even 4 strings on it, and having to kind of figure out where you know, notes that I wanted to play could be found in alternative locations. So there you go. Pretend you've broken a string. Next.
Use your existing knowledge.
Yeah, use what you already know and build on it. When you examine how much you actually already know, you'll probably be surprised at just how much that is. So what can you do here? Well, you know, if we can agree that it's fairly easy to identify notes down here in the cowboy chord area, because if you know the open strings and you know your chromatic scale, you don't have far to count from the open string notes. So if we take a chord like E major, let's clean that up a bit. Take a chord like E major, there we go. And then change that to an E minor. It's fairly obvious there that only one note is changing. E major has this note, a G sharp in it, and E minor has the open string, the G note in it. Okay, right, so how can we make use of that? Well, play an E major and an E minor as a bar chord up here. Up at the 7th fret, there's your E major chord. Now change that to an E minor. And once again, you can see only one note changing. This is the G sharp that's in the E major chord, and this is the G, which is in the E minor chord. Okay, so once you know that it's G going to a G sharp down here, and then you play the same chord in a different location on the neck, you can spot where the G and the G sharp are. Easy. Do it again with an A major chord, where the C sharp note becomes a C note in the A minor. Okay, there's A major, A minor, C sharp, C. Do the same thing with a D major chord. There's a D major with an F sharp note in it, D minor with an F note in it. Play those two chords, further up the neck as a bar chord. There's the major chord with the F sharp in it, which changes to the F note in the minor chord, and that's the same thing up here. F sharp in the major chord, F in the minor chord. As I said, it's fairly easy and straightforward to kind of identify what notes are going on in your cowboy chord positions, but then if you start playing those chords in different inversions and different patterns and shapes further up the neck, you can kind of spot where those notes are changing and automatically identify what those notes are. Other things you can do, if you're a regular watcher of this channel, or if you're a student of mine, you'll probably know that the A minor pentatonic, the notes of that scale, spell the word caged if you descend the scale. So here's a fairly typical A minor pentatonic box. There we go, box number 1. And if I start on this highest note here and descend the scale, I've got the notes of C, A, G, E, D. C, A, G, E, D, C, A, like that. Okay, this isn't anything to do with the caged system, by the way, just in case you're wondering if I'm going to jump off on that tangent. No. So if you know your A minor pentatonic boxes, or even just maybe some of them, let's look at the next one. There's a C note. There we go, let's play the box. We know that's a C note. How do we know that's a C note? Because it's the same note that we've just been dealing with in the previous shape. So C, A, G, E, D, C, A, G, E, D, and so on. Go up to the 13th fret on the B string. We know that the 12th fret on the B string is a B note, so the 13th fret is going to be a C. And again, come down box number 3 of the pentatonic, C, A, G, E, D, C, A, G, E, D, and so on. So using the knowledge that you've got and can apply and figure out, or maybe just know off by heart on one part of the neck, and then finding places where that repeats on another part of the neck, is just a way that I learned where stuff was. I don't honestly remember making an effort to learn where stuff was on the fretboard. It just revealed itself to me because I was having to figure out where I could play chords or riffs or licks or stuff that was otherwise unavailable to me because of a broken string or something like that. And it just, I guess, growing up, in an age before the internet, when we all carry the kind of the combined wisdom of all of humanity at our fingertips around with us all of the time, don't we? But back when I were a lad, I'm going to inevitably end up sounding like the Monty Python 4 Yorkshiremen sketch here, aren't I? But basically back then, a monthly guitar magazine was the only source of information you had, and even for me, that was 2 bus rides away. So when you got a piece of information, when you figured something out, when you were shown something, when a light bulb moment came, you treasured that, and you wanted to milk it and get the most out of it, and see what it looked like from every angle, and how many different significant things you could glean from that one little nugget of information that had just presented itself, because you never knew when the next one was going to come along. Anyway, that is it for today, folks. Those are my 5 tips for figuring out the fretboard. I hope at least a few of them have kind of maybe sparked a light bulb moment for you. Hope you've enjoyed the video and found it useful and informative, and if that's the case, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already done so. And why not drop me a like as well while you're at it. Don't forget the live stream every Friday 5 p.m. UK time, where we drink beer and talk about music and guitars and a whole range of other things. Great way to kick off the weekend. I'd love to see you there if you can make it. But for now, I'll bid you all a good day and say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time. Look after yourselves, folks. Stay well, stay safe, and above all, stay sane. Bye for now.